Hey everyone, welcome to Build Your Dream Network Virtual WaterCooler. I am Kelly Hoey, author of Build Your Dream Network, and I am beyond excited to have my friend Carla Diana, author, educator, designer, builder of cool shit. I mean, really, that should what be what your title is.
I like that. I'm going to get cards like that.
Czar of cool shit. I don't know, something big, like big title. Carla, if you don't know her, she's exploring sort of the impact, the social impact, the interactions of future technology, including robotics. We met because of an event way back in the day at the Apple Store in New York City. So we got to give a big shout out to Josh Clark because it was because of Josh.
Yay, Josh. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh. He's probably going to be like, why are those gals doing this without me? Well, because we are, Josh. Because we are. And maybe that is not, you know, like what we should be doing, but we did.
But we did. And there'll be another time, Josh.
We'll be done because we can have more people on StreamYard, Josh. And so you can be invited back. So you have a Master in Fine Arts in 3D design. You have a, a Bachelor in Engineering and Mechanical Engineering. So these people who don't think design and engineering and improving the world can go together, you are the antithesis.
Exactly. People who say engineers aren't creative are wrong.
Wrong, absolutely wrong. All right, before we get into your new book, okay, so the last time we chat, literally, like, other than a coffee shop running into each other, you're now, you know, back at your alma mater. You're living just outside of Detroit, a city I absolutely love. Give us a catch up, what you're doing.
Yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, I got, you know, I was at Parsons School of Design, which I was telling you I thought would be my forever home because I'm a native New Yorker. I was born, raised in the Bronx and spent most of my life in New York City. And this email came in that said, hey, Carla, I was asked to put together a list of people in the field that I would recommend to Cranbrook because they want to create a new program called 4D Design. And this colleague of mine said, honestly, your name was the first that came to mind, but I know that you've just started a new gig and maybe you don't want to throw your hat in the ring. And I said, oh my gosh. You know, really, I think there would be no single other thing that I would actually go back into a, you know, that I would give up this Parsons gig for. But to go to Cranbrook, first of all, which is really world renowned, and it's also this lovely, it's a very small school. It's about 150 students. It's only art, design, and architecture, and it has this very storied history in design. It's, some people call it the birthplace of American modernism. So Charles and Ray Eames met here, and Saarinen was one of the founders who helped design the whole campus. And there have been, you know, lots of amazing artists. More recently, McCabe, but back when Carl Mills, Harry Vertoya, lots of architects. So, you know, this just this amazing place. And it's on a larger educational community with an art museum and a science museum and a lower school and a high school and 318 acres of wooded lands and sculpture gardens. And you know, I thought, I just can't turn down the chance of this. And it was a hard moment because this email came in February. So when I was actually here having the conversations, it was, you know, February in Michigan, driving up Woodward Avenue, which is like, oh gosh, what am I doing? But I've been here for 2.5 years, and I'm about to graduate my first class from this 2-year master's program.
Wow, I want to hear about this 2 years master's, but I also, in terms of Daniel, yes, engineering and design, like, yes, why do these things belong together? Why do those things? Because I have a, you know, my bachelor's in political science and engineering and economics, no engineering, and my law degree, because I have great opinions on these things. I think they belong together. But you, as the expert, tell us why they belong together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, you know, when you're a kid, you don't really necessarily think about these silos the way that we born grown-ups do. Right? You don't think, well, you're either an engineer or you're an artist. Like, I just kind of, I love being creative, and I love math and science, and I just felt like I want to create things. I want to build things and create things. And I didn't actually know that industrial design was a field. And so I went into mechanical engineering, which is not industrial design. There are different, it's a different focus, but it still is essentially creating things. And, you know, I think the comment there of why it's such a great value add, there are a number of people who go into the design of products, and it's very challenging for them to wrap their heads around all of the complexity that might go into a physical thing, around the strength of materials, or the way that a structure might work, or you know, the value of having a motor in this location or that location. And, you know, even though as a designer, we're focused on aesthetics and the human, really the human interaction, the human, there's a lot that goes on with psychology and emotion, but still, you know, at the end of the day, this object has to have what we might call integrity and be able to function and be strong, and its physical presence is so important. And so an engineer will have that background, and I don't engineer the things. I actually work with some incredibly talented engineers, which is one of my greatest joys. But because I have a background in engineering, I also have the confidence to jump into those conversations and, you know, have it be a true team effort.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because as soon as you're saying that, I'm thinking, yes, we can have something beautiful that works like crap, or we can have something that works well that scares the bejesus out of you because it's so, you know, says every woman who has to go for a mammogram. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, can you work on that one? All right, well, you do stuff with medical. I'm jumping ahead. Let's talk about you're graduating your first class. It's a 2-year master's. Where are these students coming from to do this program? What kind of, like, what are they doing? And then let's jump into your book and some of the other things that you're doing.
Yeah, so the students come actually from all over the world. So it's a pretty exciting thing. And it's been a pretty, I think, lucky thing for everyone involved, because we had this amazing community during the pandemic. So we are actually in person, because the way we're a very quirky, different kind of educational system. We don't sit in a classroom and have classes where you learn X, Y, and Z. The students are pushed to each develop their own projects. And so they have studio spaces. And then over the summer, I worked with one of my assistants to put up, we have plastic curtains, we have all kinds of weirdness. You know, we're in the same building, and when we have a group meeting, we all sit in front of Zoom in our little rectangle. Like, we made it work, you know,
right.
And without any major outbreaks. And I've got you know, somebody who had come here from India, someone from China, someone from the Netherlands, folks from all over the US for sure. There's a fellow from Australia who did have to postpone a year because of the travel concerns with the pandemic. But they're coming from all over the world. And my ideal is to put together this studio of engineers, designers, and artists where they all can peer learn and knowledge share.
Amazing. Because I do love this with StreamYard. Well, and hello, Haiti.
Welcome, Haiti.
You know, New York and Detroit are, you know, waving back at you. Thank you for joining us. Always fun to find out where people are from and when they're watching these things, and maybe the upside of these. I would say big upside of technology and, you know, a tiny moderately good upside of the pandemic is, the connections you can make because of technology. So you've got, in all of this stuff with going on, you have moved your life, okay? You have started to build a new master's program, and then you say to yourself, I don't have enough going on. Why don't I write a book too?
Yes.
So
and the 5-year-old.
I want to say, so let's add a 5-year-old, because being a mom with a new job and building a program, it was enough. You needed
during a pandemic.
During a pandemic, and homeschooling wasn't enough. You said, "Hey, let me write a book. Let me write a fabulous book." This is not your first book. You've written a children's book on 3D printing, Leo the Maker Prints. Talk to us about My Robot Gets Me and why you needed to write this book. And let me see. Well, hi from Holland. Great to see you. If you're checking in, watching us, and lots of people watching on LinkedIn, if you're watching us, let us know where you're from, and if you've got questions for Carla in terms of design and want to say the impact of future technologies, pop it in the questions, pop it in the chat, and and I'll be watching it. Well, Carla's talking, and yes, hello from Indonesia.
Wow.
Wonderful to see you.
So exciting.
I know, it's like awesome. Okay, so why this book? Why is it important now?
So to be fair, we're joking about everything, but I've been working on this project for over 3 years, and I had been working in a design firm called Smart Design, probably when you and I first met each other. And I started realizing that this intersection of the physical and the digital, or when we have electronics inside of our physical objects, was a whole new world, and in some ways kind of a new discipline, where there are very specific things to pay attention to, and that it's almost like I talked about materials earlier, we talk about colors and materials, and we have what I call these dynamic characteristics, or things that change in an object. So light and sound and movement. And those are things that we're also crafting as a designer. And there are whole new ways to think about this. And there really isn't a history of this. And so when I specifically went to Smart Design, and I was working at Frog for a while too, which is another design firm that works specifically in this space. And I was really laser focused on working on physical things that had electronic behaviors. And in doing so, I also had been going, I always go back and forth between industry and academia, because in academia you have the bleeding edge, and you can taste the future, right? But it's not quite there. And then in industry, you've been working on something for years, and you actually get to see it out in the world. And so I've always had one foot in each door and trying to find the perfect balance. And while I was doing that, I worked with a really brilliant professor who was at Georgia Tech. So I have jumped around for a while. I was at Georgia Tech for a while as a visiting assistant professor for a year. And I met this woman, Dr. Andrea, and she had come from this field called social robotics, which I'd never even heard of. I thought, wow, there's an entire field called social robotics. And there are researchers all over the world specifically studying how we might interact with our computing machines in a very human way. So bringing to the table just what you know from coming to a water cooler conversation, let's say. Can we operate a machine just by talking to it, gesturing, understanding? It doesn't mean literally maybe conversation. It might be understanding a light, but as humans, we understand something flashing means something's going on, as opposed to sort of like a kind of glowing. And so that becomes a whole language to work with as designers. And so I started putting all those pieces together, the robotics and what was happening in designing products. And I felt like, oh, there's a ton to be explored here. This is exciting. This is a pioneering field. And started teaching courses around it, which is also really exciting, because then I got to see, I get just a lot of joy from introducing these ideas to graduate students or even undergraduates and seeing what comes out of it. And so I taught a series of courses. I created the first one for School of Visual Arts. And then I brought that course, a variation of that course, to the University of Pennsylvania, where I was teaching for a while, and then wrote it back to I was going to launch it at Parsons, and then now this 4D design program. So in all of that, between the working efforts and the teaching efforts, I had a ton of material. So that, I was like, I got lots of content here.
No shortage of content. And I was thinking about when you were talking, it was the idea that with our robots, it's like we want to interact with them or react with technology in a human way, but not too human.
Yeah.
And I'm remembering back in the day when I was traveling all the time, and I'd get off the SkyTrain or get off New Jersey Transit to jump on the SkyTrain to go to Newark Airport, and they'd have one of those cutout figurines of like a person, and it was
I have seen that thing with by the luggage. I've seen that thing. It was like there was a projection, like it was talking to you, but you're
creepy. Stop it. Just give me a sign. I'd rather have Star Trek technology with some weird buttons than that kind of creepity creep anyway. But that's what we're talking about. You're making talk about just well, you talk about whatever you want, because I think it's all interesting. But talk about some of those things, those real life situations where having that interface or having that design of a robot so that it is not frightening, so that it is engaging, and how you get that, how do you get that recipe right to get that design right?
Yeah, I mean, it is, and it's something I've been working with Dr. Tomas, whose first name is Andrea, for over a decade now. So we've done a number of these projects together, and one of them, so the first one looks like this, which is, oh wait, I can't click on that one. I'll click on this one, which is almost an exaggeration of literally eyeballs, and and that was for lab studies, and these ears that can rotate and glow, and then the next project we did was started out looking like this, which was a rectangle on a pole with a robot arm, and so they were two different design approaches, and in developing that, so with that one I really wanted to bring a softness to it. I worked with a fashion designer whose name is Amy Lynn Stoltzfus. I found this woman who had done her thesis in fashion school around neoprene. And I felt like, I think neoprene it has this sort of sheen and it holds its shape, but it could bring a softness. And so we developed this coat around this robot that's called Polly. And I started developing some principles around, if you're going to talk to something, you need to give a actual indication through the design language that you can talk to it. So I kind of exaggerated these ears, and you need to know where it's looking. So I showed this kind of face with this mask, and all of those sort of cues are things that I'm continually working on.
And what does Polly do?
So Polly was also for research, and was put in lots of different situations. So would be able to go to be in a lobby. So this was at the University of Texas in Austin. Be in a lobby and deliver things, or bring people coffee, or help somebody who had a disability and wanted to cook in the kitchen but wasn't able to continually get up and go or reach up into the cabinet. So those were some of the scenarios and actually at the university they had this kind of mock home environment where they were testing out some of these behaviors. And then Andrea was.
I'm going to pause you. Like Polly without her neoprene coat, I'd be like, get the F out of the kitchen. Yeah. I just want to. There's a couple other people who want to say hi. Hi, Evie Toddy. I know Evie. I want to say it's a computer scientist, another woman in tech. It's good to see you.
Fabulous.
And hello, Andrea in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Wonderful to see you this morning. So yeah, if you're watching on LinkedIn in particular, put in the comments where you are. Let us know where you are, and if you've got questions you don't know who I'm talking to, I'm talking to the fabulous Carla Diana, who is a designer, author, and educator. And I would say builder of really cool shit. So there we go.
There we go.
Oh, here we go. Hey, from Tunisia, it's amazing. Good morning to you, or our good morning, your good afternoon. Thank you for joining us and taking time. Hey, we're in COVID, but we're still busy. God damn it. You'd think you'd be staying at home, you could be watching some Netflix. No,
I know. not catching up on all the robot movies, to be honest. But
okay, who's this cutie pie?
This is Moxie. So Moxie, all of this work over 10 years culminated in Andrea being getting the opportunity to create a company, because you asked what Polly does, and it was a question mark. That's how things work. That's why I love academia, because you can do a lot of work around the question. And the answer was, who really needs this? Nurses. Nurses are exhausted. They're breaking their backs, carrying things. They're going into closets and spending 45 minutes assembling a kit of something when they know that their patient really needs them and that their value is really in them being there in person with that patient. And so that she developed this company called Diligent Robotics that is meant to alleviate the load for nurses. And she brought me on board to be head of design for that robot and that company. I continue to work with them. That's my consulting practice. And I love, and it's again a team of incredibly talented engineers, software developers, researchers who go into the hospitals and talk with people. I mean, that's really, a lot of people think about all the design behind the scenes, but a lot of it really comes from the insight. So for me, it really, the fact that I just can't emphasize enough how much of this is a team effort and how valuable it is to me to work with fantastic people at Diligent Robotics. And so they bring to me the insights from being right there in the hospital on the ground with the people doing the work. And then I work with them and talk through. And sometimes I get involved in the interviews as well. We did, even during the pandemic, we did a series of this, video interviews with people who are in the hospital and starting to work with the first generation of the robots. And so this robot will, it has a basket. We've actually been developing a more enormous cart that has these drawers that you can badge in and badge out into, and there's a special drawer that can hold fire hazard stuff. And we're working on all kinds of scenarios. But yeah, this is Moxie, and it's an ongoing project. And I brought a lot of and I talk about it a lot in the book. So it was really a pleasure to be able to tell the Moxie story and actually to tell it. I mean, this is a highly specialized robot that needs to be have so many features, but a lot of this, anybody who's working with products at all, I think a lot of the aspects of this robot can be shared with the people designing all kinds of products. Even a microphone, just the way that it might turn towards you and let you know when it's listening, when it's not listening, who it's listening to, like all of those things are social exchanges. So, but what's really, I also I love that you said this cutie, but I push back.
If I was in hospital and sick, or if I was, you think of the time when you're like really vulnerable, you're sick and in a hospital, you think of a lot of times in terms of wards where you want to have the nurses really giving the care is like children's wards. This would not scare me coming down the hallway. Right. And I think that's why I'm like, well, this is cute. It's like there's enough humanness to it that I would, particularly thinking if I was a child, I might actually want to talk to Moxie. But it's not, so I want to say engineered that you're like, this is creeping me out that the shopping cart is coming down the hallway. Am I in The Shining? Or it is not so human that you're like, okay, this is just beyond creepazoid, and it not in a funny, kind of Mike Myers, kind of jokey way with fembots. But right. Moxie is cute.
Yeah. And it's a tough balance, and I push back on all of the humanness to make it too much like it has eyeballs and arms, and if we don't need those things. And I got a lot of feedback from the team around how much the social aspects. I mean, really, I think the what gives Diligent Robotics their edge is this social aspect, because you have this thing roving the halls of what might be, you know, one of the most busy, hectic, emotionally charged settings. And so if we can use social interaction as opposed to having people go like, well, where's that button and what's the code? You know, their social interactions help people actually learn how to operate this robot, as well as, you know, understand that social exchanges
Oops.
that the robot does. Let's see if this video is. So here's a little demo of what it will do. So there it is, assembling a kit. And now it's going to go in the hallway. So
that's awesome. That is,
yes.
Like, you think about it, what do you want your nurses to do? Like, you know, like, these things need to be put together, right? What better? And actually have, you know, I want to say the nurses doing the job that we've, you know, trained and they've trained for, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they want to be talking to the patients. I'm just going to say a few more hellos, because I really do love this. Thank you for joining us from Brazil. And Josephine, hi from Kenya. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Michelle, India, and I hope you are well. I listen to too much BBC News and things going on in the world. And hello from Iran. Well, like, fantastic. And Nigeria. I should thank you, Aisha, for joining us. And if you've got, I'd love that we're all checking in. If you've got questions for Carla, please, please, please. Because you can see she's got a whole lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So, who did they not fast when they write that? You know, I want to say these lovely headlines. Who is Moxie?
Who is they?
Who's the they? Who? With the nurses or with the patients? Like, you know, I think Moxie would be the life of the party.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's been so interesting are just continuing to work on it and all of the nuances of the social interaction. Like that video I showed you, there's a difference between passing someone in the hallway, and we wanted to make sure, you know, one of the things I talk about in the book is how much, you know, everyone's accustomed to the Amazon Echo, but we don't think about the fact that it sits in a corner and doesn't actually let you know when it's listening or when it's not listening, and you know, there could be some even more nuanced interactions around its presence. And you know, one of the things that has been really satisfying to watch being developed by the software developers who are planning some of the behaviors is thinking about, well, when the robot passes you in the hallway, it should acknowledge you, right? And if it's too close, it should know that it's getting too close, and it should know to say, excuse me. And you know, and then there are just a whole host of other really, really interesting aspects of it. I was in a talk the other day, and there was one of the questions came from somebody who was a sociologist working for another robotics company, and you know, talking about behaviors in hallways and doorways and elevators, and it's pretty fascinating, and it, you know, winds up manifesting in the lights and the sounds and the movement of the object, right?
Well, and you bring up such a great point, you know, because when we've heard of exactly, I'm going to say, you don't know when your Amazon Echo, or, you know, when this little bad boy is, you know, sitting there listening to you, and rather having something that you're absolutely aware that Alexa, Siri is, you know, hi, I'm awake, I'm here, I'm in the room, I'm listening to you. There's something, to me, there's a transparency also too, in terms of the ethics and the integrity of the company behind the technology or behind the service, when the robotic device like lets itself be known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So yeah, so those are the things that I've been working on.
Oh, that's little things, like things working on. Bring back the cover of your book so everybody can see this, because they can get it everywhere. This is amazing. So if you're someone, yes, Aisha, I think this is absolutely right. Yes, and you know what? And here I'm thinking to myself, of course, big shocker, surprise, a company founded by a woman is actually thinking of places where we really need these robotics as opposed to, I don't know, don't even get me started. I'll come up with some ridiculous idea and someone will make it. What kind of things are you excited about with where future technology is going right now?
Well, I've been excited about the book and these conversations with other designers and engineers and marketers and folks who are in the product development, because I think that things could be a lot better and a lot more nuanced. Even something as mundane as automatic doors in a store, just understanding where we're standing and when it's appropriate to open and the speed of opening. I don't know, just all of the nuances about that. So I'm excited to see where all this is going to go and how it's going to change the way we interact with products in our home. And I'm also interested in talking about, also a sensitivity to some of the ethical concerns in these situations. There is the potential to persuade once you have this relationship with an object. So having the conversation with designers around ethics, around like what's the goal of having this thing talk to you. And I had Alexa try to push a product on me the other day. I said, Alexa, please do not do that again.
Shush it.
I think I asked for the weather and it said, and would you like recommendations? Or it's something like that. I was like, I would not.
Do that again, Alexa, and you are out on your what. No, well, too, because you think in situations where people are vulnerable, where, again, or they don't know, all of a sudden you could find yourself with an order of 62 umbrellas off of Amazon or something.
Right.
Like, no. I like the ideas. As soon as you said that about like the Echo, the idea that it is something more than that looks like a speaker in the corner. You're more aware of it. Not like so obtrusive, thinking of, those of us had turntables and speakers in the 70s and 80s, big obtrusive things in the room. But again, something you're aware of so that you're conscious of when you want to have conversations with it and when you say, bye-bye, go to sleep.
Right. And it's a delicate balance, right? We don't want to have everything in the room kind of flashing at us and beeping at us. And yes, I know you're here. Okay. But I think that that's the challenge for designers. I think we're at a moment when it's really a pioneering field to think about products in this way.
Wow. And of course, COVID has changed everything. We don't want to push doors in going into a grocery store or into the pharmacy or, the department store. We want to interact with other people, but there's some physical objects we don't want to navigate around them in the old way. You think of movement through airports, how again could that be improved so that, we can scan and do things in a way that, get our passport through something that doesn't involve as much human contact because of, I'm going to say there's the health safety concerns, but would that also be more accurate? And, I was listening to a story this morning on dogs being trained to sniff out COVID. Maybe we could get Moxie to start doing that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's that too.
I know. I wouldn't mind Moxie coming up and giving me a sniff at the airport.
Giving you a sniff.
Give me a sniff, see if I have.
Hi, I'm Moxie.
I'm Moxie. This is like amazing. You have so much going on. All right. So my robot gets me. You can find it everywhere. Barnes and Noble, I love bookstore.org, so you can support local bookstores. You can find it on Amazon. Amazing book if you are someone who is anywhere in the intersection of design, engineering, product design, even I think as you've already worked with a fashion designer. With Polly, yes. So, if you're anywhere in those fields, you should be, I would say, reading this book. You should be following Carla's work. Your website is carladiana.com. Easy.
And I co-host a podcast that is called
tell us.
the RoboPsych podcast with a fellow named Dr. Tom Gariello, who is a PhD psychologist. So we have these great conversations where and he's also a branding expert. So he has sort of the psychology aspect of it, and I bring the design lens to it. And we talk about robots, and we bring on guests. We have a lot of engineers and academics and folks who we nerd out around robot. But it's not actually really nerding out, because we talk a lot about just society, and it's starting to be a thing that was a nerding out thing that is now a conversation that everyone has front and center, because it's affecting all of our lives.
Right. I would say that the necessity of technology and necessity that works for us as human beings.
Yeah. So yes, my robot gets me, and RoboPsych.
RoboPsych, not psycho robots. RoboPsych.
RoboPsych. Yeah, it's all one word. RoboPsych.
I'll make sure to attach the links when I go back into social media accounts and share this information. Thank you for all of this. It has been amazing to catch up with you and everything you're doing. Always a pleasure, and for giving us this time. And for everyone who checked in and watched, thank you for taking time out of your busy day and your commitments to spend time with us. So with that, I'm going to end this week's virtual water cooler, and we'll be back again soon. Heads up. Next person I'm talking to is a cookbook author. How about them? How about them apples?
Them apples.
There it is. Maybe, you know what? Maybe a weeding robot. I might like gardening again.
Yeah.
Would Moxie like it? Would Moxie like it in the yard? All right.
I don't think so.
We'll save that for another.
She might have like a cousin or
a cousin, maybe the app, because there's the basket, apple picking cousin. There we go. All right, that's for another conversation. Thank you
Thank you to all the people who said hello from all over the world. Oh my gosh, what a great morning that is for me.
Yeah, isn't that always fun? I love that. All right. Thanks, everybody.